Hey everyone, so Charlie Kirk is a prominent conservative figure. He's the head of Turning Point USA, which is a college conservative activist group, and he has some pretty atrocious views on immigration, and he's very against government regulation. But like many conservatives, he's only for government regulation when it's of social media companies, because he feels social media companies disproportionately negatively affect conservatives. And I mean, already there's an inherent hypocrisy in this for someone who claims to be very against government regulation, is for the free market, to say that we should regulate these companies. But also, it kind of gives away the game on a bunch of things that exist in America that he claims don't exist. So I'm going to play the clip, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Social media space is where a lot of these conversations are happening. And I think right now we need to have a very serious, let's say, like, rules of engagement from these tech companies of, if you're going to apply a rule to a conservative, it better apply to a liberal, especially when you see that impartiality is not something Silicon Valley can always embody.
So here's the problem with this I mean, first of all, I think that this whole notion that, big tech only negatively affects conservatives just isn't true. I mean, there are some far left, like, anti-war groups that have been banned off of Facebook. I mean, Howie Hawkins got his account suspended from Twitter for no reason. This idea that it only affects conservatives just isn't true. But the other side of this, the other angle, is that Charlie Kirk is someone that says that systemic racism doesn't exist in America. And the argument that he would say is, well, where are the laws that that are against Black Americans? How can it be a system that is prejudiced when there are no explicit laws that are against, Black people or people of color? But the problem is, he seems to be able to recognize, because Twitter has nothing in their terms of service that says conservatives can't use our site and we're going to ban conservatives. But he recognizes that what he feels is there's a disproportionate number of conservatives being impacted by these policies. And so he's able to recognize that that is discrimination. But he isn't able to do it when, we see the number of Black people that are born into poverty, or the Black incarceration rate, or a number of other things. Because I could use the exact same argument that Charlie Kirk likes to use. That, well, if it violates Twitter's terms of service, those conservatives just shouldn't have done it. If they were getting banned, that's just, because that's the argument that he would make for Black Americans that are in prison, for example. Well, they shouldn't have broke the law. Or, it's just, if they commit if they commit a majority of violations of the law, then they should be the majority of the people in prison. Well, that should be the same argument that Charlie Kirk would use for conservatives on Twitter. If they break Twitter's terms of service disproportionately, well, then they should be impacted disproportionately. Now, of course, he could say, well, it's not applied the same way for conservatives and liberals. So I can say, well, then why are Black people sentenced to harsher sentences compared to white people? For the exact same crime. That is the real thing that happens. Why are Black neighborhoods policed more frequently than white neighborhoods, which are disproportionately, of course. We're not talking about like every single situation, but these are disproportionate things that we're talking about. And that leads to higher incarceration. We could talk about redlining, which, while there's no specific redlining laws like on the books anymore, and that's been illegal at this point, the practices of redlining, I mean, seem to have carried over into generations later. And so I think that it's just this is very common. Charlie Kirk is not unique in this. There are a lot of Republicans and conservatives that say that there's this intense discrimination of conservatives and the big tech, but then they will just flat out ignore what is happening to Black Americans and people of color in general in this country. And it's just a little silly, because, I mean, honestly, you can easily make the argument that conservatism is an ideology. You can choose whether or not to be conservative. I mean, you can say that you've come to it from a fact-driven way, but at the end of the day, it is an ideology. You were not born a conservative. You were maybe brought up being a conservative, but it's so much different than the idea of what race you were born as or what gender you were born as. And to act like this is the most intense form of discrimination happening just isn't true. And so I really find this a little funny, just the hypocrisy that exists on this side of the aisle. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you disagreed with anything I said or feel like I got anything wrong, please leave a comment down below. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.